of Snap, IIFC. Okay. Essentially these two, make sure you go through the questions which are there also. Third, we have already done C GK session. We have done C GK session for IFC and we have done 2 GK sessions for IRMA. Make sure you, even if you have gone through them earlier, you have attended them, make sure you go through them again. These are important because this is a section which takes the minimum amount of time and you can probably get, even though if by going through these you can get 3 or 4 extra questions, that is going to be a big bonus for you. Finally, we will be conducting GK session for Snap also and we will be sharing the schedule as we go along. Make sure you attend them also. There are going to be 3 GK sessions for Snap. So now let's come to the other important part in this paper. What have been the cutoffs?
Okay, just to add something to it, as you can see that the last 3 years papers had 150 questions and we have reasons to believe that it's going to be the case this year as well. But Snap has never announced the exact number of questions beforehand. So what they tell you is just that the paper would be of 180 marks, will be of 2 hours, will have 1 course negative marking, things like that. But they never announce the number of questions beforehand. And so be prepared for a slightly different pattern. You never know it may happen. So in the last 6 years it has happened only once. That was in 2008 at Snap paper had 135 questions. What they have done was that there were 5 questions in each of the 3 sections, Quant, GK and English, which were 2 markers. So that way there were 15 questions in the paper apart from the logical reasoning section, which were 2 markers, and that brought down the number of questions to 135 in place of 150. So just be prepared for a section like for a paper like this. I don't know what's going to happen, but you never know. So if it happens, then probably apart from those 30 LR questions, 30 reasoning questions, these 15 are questions that you should make sure that you should get them correct and should devote slightly more time on these 15 questions. So just make sure that they are in your mind that you might see a slightly different pattern on the relay. And so that is what I will suggest give you over. Okay, so we'll come to the cutoffs, probably the most important part of this paper. First thing first, Snap as such as a exam taking body does not make any announcements about the cutoffs or anything else about the sectional cutoffs or anything as an exam taking body. So cutoffs is something that is the prerogative of the individual institute. So if you look at the 8 free schools, in that we'll just look at the top 4, SIBM, Pune, STMHRD, SIIB, and SIBM Bangalore in that particular order. So SIBM Pune is number 1, STMHRD would be number 2, SIIB would be number 3, and SIBM Bangalore would be number 4. So if you look at the cutoffs of these 4 institutes, SIBM Pune, the cutoff commission of the ज़्यादा होता है. So last year, in fact this is the data for Snap 2010. The paper that was held exactly 2 years back. So SIBM Pune's cutoff for open category that year was 118, which you can say was pretty high. So this was 118 marks out of 180 marks. This was without any sectional cutoffs. So Snap generally would not, all the institutes in Snap would generally not have sectional cutoffs. For example, for this particular year, I have already checked the website of SIBM Pune. It very clearly mentions that they would not consider sectional cutoffs. It will just be the overall score on which they would be announcing they will be getting the call. But there is no such mention. At least I could not find it on the STMHRD website. So be prepared for some nominal sectional cutoffs. They are not very high, generally not very high in Snap, even when they were there, but there might be sectional cutoffs in some of these institutes. SIBM Pune definitely does not have sectional cutoffs. Last year, none of these institutes had sectional cutoffs, but it might be there. So since the paper is so simple that in order to maximize the score, you have to extract something out of every section anyway. So just make sure that you don't ignore any of the sections. Exactly 2 years back, STMHRD had this on their website that though they would not consider sectional cutoffs this year, but they would not appreciate people getting a negative or a 0 score in any of the sections. So I don't know what does that mean, but what it definitely tells you is that to be on the safer side, get something in the sections, even if you are very weak in some particular section. So that is about the sectional cutoff. So don't worry too much about the sectional cutoff. You can safely assume that it's almost not there. But as a result of it, the overall cutoff shoot up. So this was for Snap 2010, SIBM Pune at 118. Second was STMHRD. It was a good 9 marks below SIBM at 109. Then after that, the margins would get very, very small. After that was SIIB at just 1.5 marks below STMHRD at 107.5. SIBM Bangalore at 105.75. and then all the other 3-4 institutes would be in the range of 95 to 105. So SIBM Pune would be the number 1 institute at around 6, 7, 8 marks below SIBM Pune would be SCMHRD, and then at a difference of 1 or 2 marks, you'll find all the other institutes. I'll show you the cutoff chart for 2011 SNAP as well. If you look here, as you already mentioned, it had a tough reasoning section. Because of that, the SIBM Pune cutoffs dropped down to 91.75 last year. So it dropped by a good 26, 27 marks as compared to the last year's cutoff. And accordingly, as you can see, SCMHRD dropped to 84.5 and SIIB to 80. We don't have the data for SIBM Bangalore last year, but I don't think it could vary too much. It could be very close to 80 only. So SIBM Bangalore would be, I think, 78, 77, 79 or something like that. So not very different. So if you look at the data a bit deeply, it's all very consistent. Just for the record, in SNAP 2009, the SIBM Pune cutoff was 107. So for these 3 years, last year it was 91.75. The year before that it was 118, 19, and the year before that it was 107. So it can be anything in the range of 90 to 120. So just be prepared to face any kind of paper. Read the paper on its merit. Don't go there with any preconceived notions about the cutoff. Don't try chasing a particular number. I'll get 120, I'll get 125. You also need to keep in mind that the weight given to the written paper in the final selection is just 40%. It's there on the website, right? So if you let's say if you just clear the cutoff in the margin, it will become that much more difficult for you to get the final call. So if you are saying that 125 is a decent score, don't need to start at 125. Get a 135 and give a boost to your chances to convert the call finally. So this is all that needs to be kept in mind. These numbers are just for your reference, because you should not be totally clueless going into the examination hall what I need to achieve to get a call for the second stage. Otherwise, try and maximize the score. Don't worry too much about the sectionals and in SNAP. Just one more thing I want to want to tell you about the SNAP process. That I don't know if it happened last year or the year before that, but around 2-3 years back, SNAP institutes used to give 2 kinds of calls. One was a general call in which they would consider a overall cutoff plus some sectional cutoff, and they would give a blanket call as well. For example, if their cutoff, let's say, for SCMHRD is X, they would have a blanket call at X plus 20. Wherein they would say that anybody getting an X plus 20 would get called irrespective of the background and everything else. Okay. Fine. So the numbers that we are talking about are not for blanket calls. These are the general call numbers. Fine. So blanket calls are given at a score much above the general cutoff calls number. And just keep this in mind, it matters.
I think the last bit which Abhishek said is extremely important, which means even if you don't do well in a particular section, but you get a score of let's say 125, you are bound to get a call from SIBM. So please make sure you don't ignore the blanket calls that is again given in the website of at least was given last year also. For this year they have not specifically mentioned, but given the track record of invoices, I would not be surprised if that continues. If you look at if you or anyone else had taken the SNAP paper last year, and if you go to the results, they have mentioned that last year, if I remember correctly, for the blanket call was at 113 marks, okay, which is significantly above this score of 91 or 84 for SCMHRD. So the blanket call concept is there. So even if you are weak in a particular section, but if you can maximize your scores in the other 3 sections, let's say you target the score of let's say 120 and the cutoff is something 100, you are bound to get a call from the institute. Just to take the last bit out here, how much time to spend in each section and how much to attempt in each section. Okay. Now given the paper, now this again we are assuming that the paper is similar to last year in terms of pattern. So assuming the paper is same as last year in terms of the number of questions, GK 40 questions, English 40 questions, again quantitative aptitude again 40 questions, and reasoning 30 questions. If I assume this same breakup as last year, which is total of 150 questions, which add up to 40 marks, 40 marks, 40 marks, and 60 marks, which add up to 180 marks, I would suggest you look at spending only not more than 15 minutes out here. Because here again the issue is either you know the answer or you do not know. Again, given that English is primarily a vocabulary-based paper, 20 to 25 minutes is what you should be spending here. If you are strong in vocabulary or good in English, then 20 minutes is usually good enough. Otherwise, even if you are not very good in English, more than 25 minutes, you will not be able to increase your score. Whatever you get in those 25 minutes is likely to be your score. And the balance time should be spent between these two, 40 minutes each. The reason being, reasoning again is something which is important, given that it has got 2 marks per question for these 30 questions, 2 marks per question spent 40 minutes, and your target has to be, can I do about 25 odd questions and get a score of in the region of 45 to 50. This is the score which you should definitely target. Quantitative again, you can look at getting a score, getting a 30 odd correct answers if you are good in that. In the worst case, you should be looking at 25. When I look at the cutoff, the sectional cutoff in English typically has been at the score of about 20. In GK, they have usually been, whenever they have been there, they have been usually in around marks. Quantitative again is something like 20-22 marks. And the reasoning again is at something like 37-38 marks, 37 to 40 marks. So these were cutoffs which were 2009 cutoffs and prior to that. So even if you're looking at getting a score, you have to say, I need a score which is higher than these. So which is why for me, from a reasoning paper, until there's a blunder like last year. Last year there were 2 blunders in reasoning, 8 questions of critical reasoning, and the other issue was some 4 to 5 questions which were incorrect. Which is why the cutoff also went down significantly. But in a normal paper, you should definitely be looking at getting a score of at least 50, the worst case 45. Quantitative, again I would say you should be looking at a score of 30 plus. English a score of 30 plus, and GK something like 15 is a very good score, because whenever cutoff has been there has been a single rate number only. If I look at the last couple of years papers, we should be looking at again 110. But please don't take it as sacrosanct. As Abhishek had said a little while ago also, read the paper, understand the paper, then decide. Don't be satisfied if you are able to do questions fast. Don't just stop. Just continue. Make sure you are able to maximize your score. The key in this paper is, and the closer you reach to closer you reach to 130, the safer you are. Remember, they have these blanket calls. Not all institutes, but some of them have blanket calls. If you get a score, last year the blanket call number was about 113 marks. In the paper it was difficult. If it was an easy paper, it would have probably gone up to about 135 or so. So looking at the paper, don't worry about the sections. Focus on maximizing your overall score. If you maximize your overall score, you are safely going to get a score from this paper. Okay, so before we close, let me just quickly run through what we have done so far, just for the benefit of those of you who have missed out the initial part. 4 sections, 40 in quant, English and general awareness, and 30 questions of 2 marks each in reasoning, which add up to a total of 180 marks. English is primarily a vocabulary plus grammar paper. English is primarily a vocab plus grammar paper. So if you have to do well in this section, you make sure you revise high frequency words, make sure you go through your grammar fundamentals, make sure you do past papers thoroughly. Quantitative aptitude is very similar to what you would have seen in CMAT. Primarily a arithmetic plus BI paper. This will constitute typically 24 to 25 out of the 40 questions. Modern maths, algebra, etc. are not difficult and can be handled by most of the students comfortably. Neither is geometry or neither are geometry and mensuration difficult. Very simple paper, 40 questions, at least 36, 37 will be attemptable or can be comfortably attempted by practically everyone. This is the key section. This is the section which will ensure you get a call. Most of the time you will find verbal logic constituting 8 to 10 questions, and mathematical reasoning or analytical reasoning is contributing to about 20 questions. The kind of reasoning question which you have will be essentially arrangement question, direction question, word relation, permutation, combination, set theory, coding, decoding, sequences, all kinds of questions have come. Not all of them have come in the same paper, but all kinds of questions have come in the last 3-4 years. And those of you who are strong in the mathematical reasoning area are likely to have an easier time. Last year was the only time when we have seen 8 critical are lower, but critical reasoning, deductive logic, logical consistency are the areas of verbal logic which you need to work on. For critical reasoning, please make sure you go through the LSAT and GMAT material. If you can lay hands on a guidebook, or if you can get some material from the website, you should be able to use it to your advantage. Cutoff we have already discussed. While the SIBM Pune has clearly said for 2012, this year they are not going to have any sectional cutoff. Others are silent, but last 2 years none of the institutes have used sectional cutoff. Secondly, some of the institutes have a concept of blanket call. A blanket call is given at a score which is maybe 20 to 25 marks higher than the overall cutoff. So if the overall cutoff is 100, you can assume at about 125 there will be blanket call. Between anyone who scored 125 or more, irrespective of the sectional score, is definitely going to get a call for symbiosis. So in the worst case, you have to make sure that you maximize your score rather than worrying about the sectional score. Even when their sectional scores are there, the sectional cutoffs are typically much lower in each of the sections. And you'll find that most of you are very, very likely to clear the sectional cutoff if they are used. SIBM has said they will not be using it. For the others, we will have to wait and see. Okay? But last couple of years, none of the institutes, to the best of my knowledge, have used sectional cutoff. Time arrangement, reasoning 40 minutes for 30 questions because these are 2 marks per question. So we must make sure we don't get them wrong. Quantitative aptitude again 40 minutes. English 20 to 25 minutes. GK not more than 15 minutes. If you are good in English and you can complete English in 20 minutes, the extra 5 minutes you can give either to quant or to reasoning. GK 15 minutes and go ahead. Now the last bit about this paper is easy paper attempts will be high. There's an easy paper, so attempts will be high, which implies high attempts, which means the people who get called have to have low errors. Anyone with high error rate cannot hope to get a call from here. To make sure you get a call, you have to have low error rate because most of the students will be able to solve questions. So people who get the calls are the ones who make minimum number of mistakes. Secondly, elimination of choices has to be used essentially in the area of GK and also significantly in vocabulary-based questions. Elimination of choices can be used. Remember, the negative marking is 1 by 4. 4 choices, negative marking 1 by 4 works to your advantage. For 4 choices, for negative marking to be neutral, the negative marking should have been 1 by 3. Okay? So since the negative marking is 1 by 4, you should be able to gain if you do a elimination of choices, and even take a guess. Even when you know you are able to eliminate only 1 out of the 4 choices, even then you can look at taking the guess. Okay? So with that, we would like to end this session until there's some specific questions. So I'll quickly go. Okay, Abhishek, there's a question on blanket calls. Abhishek will explain it once again.
Okay, I'll explain it with the help of an example. Snap Institute at times also consider profiles while calling the students. Though it's not very clear if they do it all the time, but if I remember correctly, exactly 3 years back, that was in Snap 2009, STM had a cutoff of around 93-94 marks. And they were also considering the profiles of the students. Profile means your academic performance, the extent of your work experience, the institute from where you had passed out, your snap score, everything was being considered. But what they did that year was that anybody who got a score of around 113, 114 marks was called for the second stage, irrespective of all the other factors. So that was known by the name of a blanket call. So though the cutoff that year for STM was around 93-94, provided you satisfy other criteria, it was a blanket call at around 113-114 marks. So that is the meaning of blanket call. We don't know if it's going to be there this year as well, but there is always a chance that it will be there in a Snap. It might be there in a Snap Institute. So that is the meaning of a blanket call. So it's not something very complicated. Just forget it. For the sake of this exam, just try and maximize the overall score. Don't ignore the section. The section cutoffs might be there, right? But the most important thing would be good, very, very healthy overall score in this. I hope that makes it clear. Okay, if somebody is just interested in knowing how these institutes stack up, SIBM Pune would definitely be the #1 institute in this. The cutoff is the highest in this. SIBM Pune cutoff, for the sake of clarity, let's assume that SIBM Pune cutoff is, let's say, X. I'm talking about the overall cutoff. SIM HRD would be number 2 then, and with a cutoff of around X minus 8, X minus 7, something like that. SIIB Pune would be at around X minus 9, X minus 10, something like that. So it will be around 2 marks lower than SIM HRD. And number 4 would be SIBM Bangalore, again 1 or 2 marks lower than SIIB Pune. And the rest 4 would be again 2-3-4 marks below SIBM Bangalore. So it generally is like that. It's not sacrosanct. It might change this year, but it generally works like that. So SIBM Pune is clearly the leader in the group, and it's a good 7-8 marks above the second best, which is SIM HRD. Okay, if somebody wants to, if somebody is keen on knowing what to do in the last 10-15 days for SNAP preparation, this is the schedule of some of the sessions that we are going to conduct for SNAP preparation. On 5th of December, we have a GK session for SNAP. This will be a 3-hour session that starts at 8 in the evening. After that, there will be a SNAP paper discussion. This is the last year's SNAP paper, for which the cutoff was around 92 for SME Pune. So this is a relatively difficult SNAP paper, so we thought we'll discuss it for you. And this again is at 8 p.m. After that, there's another GK session coming up on 9th of December. 9th of December is a Sunday, so we thought we'll do it in the afternoon. So it starts at 2 and will go on till about 5 in the evening. And the last session for this, most probably the last session would be GK session 3. It will be on 12th of December at 8 p.m. So these are the 4 sessions that you should definitely attend. We might have 1 or 2 more depending on the requirement. But as of now, this is the final schedule for the SNAP preparatory sessions. Apart from this, if somebody is keen on practicing, you already know where to practice CR from, where to practice RC from. Another source I would like to add to this, for people who are specifically looking for something in static GK, you can either go to Manorama Yearbook or Lucent General Knowledge. So I'm asking you to do this only if you've done Gyanadhara, if you've done Management Compass, previous SNAP, IFT papers, everything else, you're still not TATI attended, then you can probably go to either Lucent General Knowledge or Manorama Yearbook. The difference between these two books would be that Lucent would be slightly more concise than Manorama Yearbook. So Manorama Yearbook is a very voluminous book. Lucent is slightly more concise than Manorama. So if you think you do not have enough time to do Manorama Yearbook, you can probably go to Lucent. So this is for people who have already done everything else in GK. So this should be the last thing to do after Management Compass, after Gyanadhara, after the previous papers, after our mock and FLT. So the fourth and the final thing would be one of these 2 books. I hope that answers the question about the preparation. Anything else that you would like to add, GK?
In terms of preparation, I think that's sufficient. The only another thing which is, to my mind, the best preparation for SNAP is to just do the last 5 or 6 years papers. You have got 3 mocks and FLT. These 8 to 10 papers are good enough to prepare for SNAP. Okay. And just make sure you do all those 8 papers, again do a thorough analysis of the paper and identify questions for revision. So if you do a paper every alternate day, you are very comfortably covered as far as SNAP is concerned. Some of the students are asking for in what sequence should we attend the paper. So sequence of attending the section, my way would be essentially I start with GK, give 15 minutes to it. Then I will go to English, give 20 minutes to it. Then I will go to QA, and then I will go to reasoning. Okay, QA I will give 40 minutes, and reasoning I will give 45 minutes. Now this is my way based on my strength. Now someone else, or one of you may want to do reasoning first, or before English also, or before part, or maybe the first section because you think that is the time when you do best around there. Okay. I have a preference for getting rid of GK and English first and then moving on to what I think are the areas in which I will be able to maximize my score. You will have to define what is your sequence that affects yourself. Which is why once you do a couple of past SNAP papers, you will be able to say, okay, this is the way I would like to attempt the paper. So this is my way. Please identify what is your way of attempting the paper.
Okay, I would add something there. So if I have to take SNAP, I would either go by what GP said. That would be exactly the order of sections that we attend: GK, then English, and Q, and then reasoning. Why it's like exactly like this. So GK is the problem session which takes the least amount of time, then comes English, then quant, and then reasoning. That can be one of the logics to get it in this order. My order in SNAP probably would be slightly different because I find those 2 markers very, very enticing. So I would probably want to do reasoning first, get all 60 in that, and then move on to the other section. So this is just because I find those 2 markers very, very tempting. And trust me, those 2 markers are not 100% more than the 1 marker. So probably the difficulty level would just be, if their difficulty level is X, they will probably be at just 1.25x, and probably at times even at the same difficulty level. So since I don't find those 2 markers very difficult as compared to the rest of the paper, I would probably want to attempt them first. That can be one of the ways of attempting the paper and nothing else. Fine. So work out for yourself which one suits you. You have got a lot of mock tests and the actual papers to try your hand at zeroing on the correct strategy for you. But this can be one of the other strategies for which you can go. Okay, somebody is asking if there are wrong questions in the paper, what should we do about that? Shivam, last year Snap had accepted that there were few incorrect questions in the paper and then scrapped it finally. But even if an examination taking body scraps the incorrect questions, that is still not good for people who wasted some time on those questions. So that can never be compensated that way. So that way I would advise not wasting any time on a seemingly incorrect question or inconsistent data question and just move ahead to the section. So Snap and IFT generally have some errors in the paper, some typos are always there. So don't waste too much time on it. Even if you think that there is a reasoning text in which I can get all 4 correct, if you can just sort this small mistake out, don't be tempted to do that. Probably the set is incorrect and they would scrap all 4 questions. So that's why I advise not wasting any time on any question which seems to be incorrect or inconsistent or having any other kind of error.
Yes. As far as you are concerned, you will come to know that the question is correct or incorrect only after the paper. So while doing the paper, while attempting the question, the only thing you know is that you are unable to solve it. And if you are unable to solve it, leave it as early as possible. If you find it difficult, you find data missing, don't worry about whether the question is correct or incorrect. Just leave the question and move on to the next one. Okay? So just focus in the paper, just focus on getting solving the question correctly and move on. Difficult, just ignore it and get rid of and move on to the next one. Okay, I think we have handled most of the questions. If there are any other questions, you can always post your queries on my blog and I will answer them. Those of you who joined in late, the session has been recorded and it will probably be put up for viewing by Monday evening, because there is a process which it has to go through and has to be converted into the appropriate form. So please, those of you who have joined in late, you could have some idea from the blog which I have written on my blog. Alternately, you could just hold on and go to the session which will be available to you on Monday. Okay. Any other question?
Somebody is asking a question about high frequency words. High frequency words are primarily the words that you usually see in newspapers, magazines, or while reading stories, etc. So if you look at your Panda book also, we have given you a word list, which is the high frequency word list. These are important words, you need to go through them. Alternatively, you can also go through all the past year papers of Snap, IFT, FMS, which are whatever papers are available. These words are also very important words, and these are usually the words that keep coming in various exams.
Okay, someone has asked, would it be worth attending coffee with SIBM? Yes, you won't lose anything. When you're interacting with the institute directly, hopefully you'll get something extra also from there. So there's a coffee with SIBM, there's a Snapit, there are a couple of other things which keep happening. So just go to the websites of all these involved institutes and you'll find each of these institutes trying to ensure application, larger number of students apply to their college, they keep on doing some activity which will be useful for you. So please make sure you attend all that is available, whether it is Snapit or Coffee with SIBM or any other workshop which is conducted by them. Okay. Shweta, we have already given the list of, the slide is up as to what are the workshops we are holding. In fact, if you go to your career launcher center, each of the center on its own is doing something extra which you can attend at your center. And those of you who are not career launcher students, you definitely have the option of attending these. Career launcher students attend the center section as well as the online section. Hopefully both of them will be able to add to your overall course. Sanjay Agarwal, the last 6 years Snap papers are available on career launcher website in your SIS e-library. Please go there and download those papers. Okay. What to attend reasoning, English, QA? We have already heard Abhishek would want to attempt reasoning first because it's 2 marks per question and they are not very difficult. I want to leave reasoning for the end because process mein karne ka shauq hai mujhe. Okay, so that's completely your choice and cannot be standardized for everyone. Okay, Nitish, I will have a check and ensure that the FLTs are available at your center in Bareilly. So Nitish, I will have it confirmed. Nitish, I will also request you to drop an email to me at gp@careerlauncher.com. Okay, so gp@careerlauncher.com. Please drop an email to me about the lack of availability of the paper. Aditya, you will have to join Career Launcher for the test series to get these papers. Alternately, you could borrow it from one of your friends who will. Okay. So Nitish, I am awaiting your email so to ensure that we don't miss out on this. Okay. Yes, we'll talk about this separately, so we'll not waste spend time here. GK pool, Swayambhu, please, and I'm sure what you're saying is relevant for many of the students also. Just focus on last 6 issues of management compass and attend all the GK sessions and go through all the GK sessions which you have conducted so far. Just make sure you do this much. Hopefully you will be able to get a score of 10, 12 or max of 15 marks in this paper. For how many months of Gyanadhara we should go through? Last 4 months should be good enough. 4 to 6 months on the outside. Start with 4 months, which means November, backward, go back, and don't go beyond 6 months. Can we go back at the end? The answer is, one of the things, okay, thank you Sanchit for pointing it out. In symbiosis, you use a pen to mark the answer. Okay, so please make sure you can't change the answer, which means, okay, the OMR sheet, you have to mark the answer with a ball pen. Okay. It's either blue or black ball pen. Please check out what the instruction. So please, once you mark an answer, you cannot change it. So please make sure you mark only when you are 100% sure. Your ability to change the answer is not available. When will mock snap be declared? The results will be declared in the coming week. The results, the sheets are still coming to us from the centers. So by Tuesday, I think we should be able to declare all results. Yes, symbiosis, Tushar, symbiosis incorporates profile in the interview call list itself. But when it is a blanket call, it does not worry about the profile at all. So last year, if the cutoff score was for 91 marks, it had already included the profile of the show, but when it was a blanket call, it did not take a look at anything but the total score. For these things, please go to your DI and LR Funda books all over again. The 3 books are the ones which you need to go through. Okay. But before that, please attempt last 3 years snap papers. GK of the last 4 months has to be revised. Cutoff in GK has never been more than 10 marks. It is usually 8 to 9 marks. It is always a single digit number. The last time this cutoff was there was in 2009. 10 and 11, there have been no sectional cutoffs in any of the snap institutes. Okay, I think that covers everything. Thank you all of us for joining us for the session. Those of you who have joined us late can definitely go to the recording, which will be available on Monday evening. Okay. And those of you interested in that, tomorrow 3 p.m. we have that orientation also. So please, those of you interested in that, you can attend the session tomorrow. Thank you very much. All the best.